This video is brought to you by the community. Thank you to all of my channel members for your continued support.
Who can you trust to watch your back? Drake's Cutlass Blue lets you take the law into your own hands. With all the attitude you expect from a Cutlass. Formidable suppression options offering a range of lethality, supercharged thrusters, plus an integrated quantum dampener and onboard containment system. The Cutlass Blue. Bad news for the bad guys. Only.
Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at the Drake Cutlass Blue. Now this video, I actually found it in my archives after, unfortunately, a lot of my files got corrupted, which has put me back somewhat time-wise on the ships I wanted to cover. Some of these clips are fairly old, but the video remains the same. I've tried to update it where applicable. The ship hasn't changed all too much, so I hope you can forgive me for that. But it was already shot, just some clips got corrupted, so I've had to mix and match. However, the core content will remain the same. The ship hasn't changed all too much, with a few extra buttons added between when this was shot and the recovery footage, let's call it, as I've managed to capture. So as you can see, the Drake Cutlass Blue already looks fairly sleek compared to its counterparts. So it's one of three variants. We have the Drake Cutlass Black, which is a very popular utilitarian ship, multi-role to an extent. Essentially, the Cutlass Black was the first upgrade I did from my Aurora, so I'm very fond of the Cutlasses. There's a lot of nostalgia there. Then we have the red Cutty Red, which of course is the medical variant of Cutlass, which is designed to stabilize and transport injured space casualties to a safer, secure medical facility. And then we have this magnificent ship, the Cutlass Blue, which looks incredible, especially with all of these neon lights, because who doesn't like space RGB? This ship has some benefits over the standard Cutlass Black, of course. It has extra armor, so fairly well armored for a Drake ship, which is very unheard of because Drake do not believe in armor. So the fact that this is armored is pretty impressive. It has more horsepower. It is faster than the Cutlass Black. It has extra powerful engines propelling this ship to 1300 meters per second, which is very respectable. It also, in the future, should receive tractor beams. There are tractor beam mounts located under the front winglets. It hasn't got them yet, so that will prove useful. Tractor beams are a day-to-day part of space life in the verse these days, so expect the tractor beams to come on board soon. So it has the armor, it has the speed, it has some tractor beams, and of course we can't ignore the bubble canopy, which is absolutely superb in terms of situational awareness. It really will help bring criminals to justice when you can see everything crystal clearly. It is a brilliant place to sit in the front of the Cutlass Blue. The turret has two Panthers in there, size 3, and the capacitors for those weapon systems are very, very good. So a crude Cutlass Blue chasing you down is going to be something to fear, especially if you're in a solo ship and you're trying to fend off one of these. It's going to be quite a tough time. It is also equipped with a quantum dampener. Now, unfortunately, I could not get that dampener to work to show you. It's bugged out at the moment. I will show you what I mean later. It's quite tricky to operate, a little bit frustrating. Hopefully that just gets reworked, that entire system. Or even better, they could bring out a keybind to activate that dampener. That would make life so much easier. But as it stands, I couldn't get it to work, unfortunately. So Drake decided to build the Cutlass Blue because they are well aware that their ships were being affiliated with piracy, and this was their attempt at trying to break the mold and change their image. So we've got the Cutlass Blue saying, look, hey guys, we're good too. Look, check out the Cutlass Blue. It flashes and everything. But it is a very good ship. It's fast, it's fairly nimble. It's not light fighter nimble, but for its size, it handles fairly respectably, I will say that. It is fun to fly. It's just a shame at the moment I could not get that quantum dampener to work. Now the quantum dampener itself will be extremely useful. It's going to allow you to track down criminals and hold them in place. As long as you're within a 2-kilometer range, they will not be able to QT jump away from you. That means we can put these distortion repeaters to work, disable their shields, and possibly go in for a soft death kill. And especially if the turret is manned, you should make some quick work of your potential victim. So the Cutlass Blue has some distinct advantages, apart from the fact that it looks amazing. I really feel like this is the best Cutlass out there. It looks superb. It still holds 12 SCU of cargo, and you can still fit very small vehicles in the back, so things like the Grey Cat Steve, some hover quads. You can get a tumbrel in, but you can't get the driver out, which was interesting. But you can get some small vehicles in the back, and it does hold 12 SCU of cargo, which is obviously an advantage. Okay, being able to bring supplies, whatever it might be you decide to take, is always going to be an advantage. Or any ship you decide to bring to justice might have cargo you need to quote unquote confiscate. For law purposes, again, having that 12 SCU is also going to be extremely useful. So the ship itself, really good, needs some loving. In my personal opinion, it is the best Cutlass out of the bunch because it just looks incredible. So I believe that this ship is going to come into its own when we get Bounty Hunting 2.0 and we are able to gain a license and track down criminals, whether they're hiding in Grimhex or not. I can't wait for the day that I can stroll into Grimhex and taser someone and throw them in the back of this Cutlass Blue. It's definitely going to happen. As you can see, the view afforded to you by this wonderful canopy is exquisite. It's one of the best all-round, all-seeing cockpits in the game, in my opinion. I think it looks absolutely superb. And of course, we have those classic MFDs that we're used to from Drake. Very simple, extremely easy to read, everything at your fingertips. I like the Drake cockpits, they tend to be very good. The co-pilot seat is of course directly behind the pilot, so they stay true to that sort of format when manufacturing their ships. So there's everything that we're used to with Drake, and internally the cockpit is superb. We have the more powerful engines, as you can see here, and these are VTOL. They are very useful. The problem with these engines is they get selected for targets in combat situations. If you lose an engine, the Cutlass becomes extremely vulnerable. As soon as that engine is shot off, you're in big trouble. So pros and cons, but we do like the VTOLs. It is a more powerful engine system on this wonderful ship. There you can see the shoulder mounted Gatling weapons, and behind that is the turret. Now I would strongly suggest that if you are on law enforcement operations that you do have that turret mounted, because light fighters will pose a threat to you. And then on the lower half of the ship at the front we have distortions. I'm a huge fan of distortions. They're great fun. They quickly chew down shields, allowing you to get to the business of killing or disabling your prey. So the distortions I would keep. These are gimbaled. You could swap these out for fixed sized weapons to have extra firepower if you so choose. But now let's talk about the internals of the ship. So we'll start at the back, and as you can see, this is a very standard, bog standard SCU area of the ship, 12 SCU. Note on the left we have the buttons that have been added for opening and closing the ramp. That is the same with the airlock. Previous clips won't show them because again I had to deal with a lot of corruption unfortunately. But in here you will fit small vehicles. You'll note there is no room for passengers here, so it's just pilot, co-pilot and gunner. There's also no hygiene station like a shoilet, for example, unless the CIG decide to add one. So you can get small vehicles in here, not a problem. Hover bikes, Grey Cat Steve, Dragonfly, for example. 12 SCU of cargo when you commandeer for evidence said cargo, so it's not too bad. And then we have the holding cells for your criminals. Now, my first impressions of these as I look at them is they are extremely thin, and there's 2 rows, each holding 3. So there's 2, 4, 6, 12 potential convicts you could potentially hold. Whether or not these get reworked, because I'm not entirely sure. I mean, it does look very tight in there. They don't operate as of yet, of course they don't. But when they do, I kind of feel like these might get a little rework or touching up. That's kind of how I feel about them. But nonetheless, it's going to be extremely cool bringing these bad boys to justice in the back of the Cutlass Blue. As you can see, there is still quite a substantial amount of room in here for various activities, but predominantly it's to hold prisoners and take them to justice. We'll see how it pans out, but I kind of feel like these might get a little cheeky rework. I imagine they're going to rotate so you can check on every prisoner. You can see they're sort of anchored on at the top on some sort of belt-driven drive, so I imagine these might possibly animate in the future. Moving on from that area of the ship then, we have the crew living area, kind of. So we have a gun rack, which is fairly prominent, and then we have the 2 bunk beds here, so you are able to log out, which is excellent. Then we have the turret entrance at the back. Again, I would strongly suggest that if you are on law enforcement operations, that you do in fact have someone in that turret seat, because the capacitors are really good and you want that firepower downrange when trying to apprehend would-be criminals. I'd also like to point out that I don't think this ship is strictly stuck in a law enforcement role. I think it'd be brilliant for any military fleet that maybe your fleet has been contacted by some sort of reconnaissance vessel and you do not want that ship to leave and give away your position. The Cutlass Blue would be more than adequate to activate that quantum dampener and hold that ship, pin it in place while you mount some sort of response to that threat, i.e. blowing it out of the sky, so that you don't have to worry about being compromised at all. So there are different roles the ship will fill. I mean, even pirates are going to use this to great effect, I would have thought. Very much like the Titan Warlocks, similar sort of principle, I guess. So it's not just pigeonholed to that law enforcement role. Here you can see we have the classic Drake co-pilot system. I really like it. It's very simplistic, very effective. You can operate the shields and missiles from the back. Would be nice if the co-pilot could also operate the quantum dampening system to free up the pilot's hassle, because it is quite a conundrum and a bit of a fuss trying to get that QD drive up and running. There's a lot of unnecessary buttons to press when I think that a simple keybind would be more efficient, or have the co-pilot do it would be my suggestion. I think the co-pilot should be able to activate that with ease. So the ship itself overall has a lot going for it. Now it does need some work. As I said, there is a bug with the QD drive at the moment, but everything else does seem to function as should be. You can't turn on the main headlights without having the flashing lights operate, which is kind of annoying, because if you are trying to go sneaky and you land somewhere dark, you don't always want to have the RGB going at full blast. So that is something I'd like to see separated as well. I'm sure it's on their radar. So we have the firepower, the turret, excellent bubble canopy, limited armor. We have a 1 size 2 shield, so it's not going to do you all that well compared to like a Vanguard, which has 2 size 2 medium shields. So timing your attack will be crucial in this ship. Now here is where the problem lies. So as you can see, I've got the Burke drive, which is actually on but saying it's not, and I cannot get this where the arrow is now. See that little flash? I could not get it to activate. It was driving me insane, and I sat in this cockpit for at least 15 minutes. I moused over every point of interaction on this ship and could not for the life of me get the QD text to pop up for me to operate and show you the quantum dampening system. So we know it has a range of 2 kilometers. It will almost certainly be useful. As you can see there, it just flashed for a second, so I just could not get it to activate. Could not get it to activate. And you can see on the far right MFD there, it is in fact on. It's the second one down, and I just could not get it to activate. That's such a shame. It will get fixed, of course it does. CIG do fix things. They take a while, but it does get done. So maybe this might be a revisit with the QD, but until then, there we go, and you go to mouse and it disappears. Sod's law. Okay, so let's now take a look at the weapons and components that we will find on a stock Cutlass Blue. Okay guys, here we are on our trusty Urkel Games DPS calculator, and we're going to take a look at the weapon systems and components found on the stock Cutlass Blue. So as you can see, weapon wise, we have all gimbaled weapons, and we'll start with the Scorpions at the top, and then 2 distortion repeaters. You can swap those out for fixed weapons. We have a manned turret with 2 Panthers. We have the Burke QD drive which has a snare radius of 20,000 meters and a jammer range of 2,000 meters. Missiles, we have a butt ton of those, and you can swap and swap and swap these out for as many as you want. It has quite the missile capability, the Cutlass Blue. So you could have 48, I believe, size 1 missiles, which is pretty impressive. The shields are the Aspis, one size 2. You're probably going to want to change that. The power plant is a turbo drive, and again, that's a size 2. Moving on, we have the 2 coolers, which are both size 2, and these are the Grouples. I want to say that, if that's correct. Stop making weird names for stuff, CRG. We'll go with Grouples, or Grapple, or Growlpool. And then we have the Bolon, which is useless now, but will, in some form, show its true nature and be useful in the future. Right now in Stanton, definitely swap this out. It's extremely slow, excellent range, extremely slow and painful to get around. So those are the stock components of the Drake Cutlass Blue. Okay, let's begin to wrap this video up, and we will do so by taking the walk around of this wonderful ship. I love the front of this ship, especially with the canopy. I think it's the most sleeker looking out of all the Cutlasses. It's very, very cool. We have the winglets, we have that bubble canopy, we have a prominent turret. You know, it always surprises me just how big the Cutlasses are once you walk around them. They're always much bigger in the flesh, so to speak, than they are in space. It's a trickery, sorcery of scale is what the Cutlass does to you. It's very interesting and unique, kind of, but a classic design as well. We have the 2 airlocks. Of course, we have the more powerful engines at the back, which do have a VTOL function. They are a prominent target. Once they get shot off, the Cutlass becomes extremely difficult to fly, so they get targeted for good reason. And it is a little bit awkward trying to turn off thrusters in a combat situation. But I prefer the paint of the Cutlass Blue, the stock one. You can mix and match paints from other Cutlass variants. It will go on this ship, but I prefer the stock look. Obviously, tricycle landing gear, 2 at the rear and 1 prominent one at the front next to the wings at the front. Aerodynamically, it's a little bit cumbersome. Doesn't handle brilliantly in atmosphere. So we make our way round towards the front of the ship. Again, we can see the other airlock. So let's now make our way inside this wonderful, wonderful space machine. We'll hit the button. Okay. Quite a slow ramp, but we'll make our way in. Now, this is the 12 SEU area, cargo area, small vehicle bay, if you call it as you will. Now, I have noted that there are no designated component bays here for you to swap, take out, or perform maintenance. Now, we know that resource management is on its way. I'm very much sure that this ship is going to have those implemented. There's plenty of room in here for components and the component bays, so I don't see that being an issue. As we make our way towards the front of the ship, then we are greeted at the midsection, and here is where all the good stuff's going to happen. So this is where you're going to hold potential prisoners, dead or alive. You'll note the MFD there shows you life vital signs. You do want to try and bring back your bounties alive. You will get paid more, and with the license and the ability to taser people if that's the route they choose to take, trying to capture your potential criminals is going to be fun, and storing them in these, I think these might have a rework, because I believe these are going to animate. As I said, there's like some sort of rotating belt system at the top, because obviously you're going to have to swap the pods around to see if everyone's still breathing. We'll see how that goes. Here we have an airlock, and on the other side we have one as well. It's pretty useful, just to jump out of the ship rather than using the ramp. So we have 3 exit points including the ramp. There's no way to get out towards the front of the ship, so they're pretty handy. You can just jump out there, come back in through the ramp and shut them where needed. But apart from that, there's not too much in here, so I imagine a lot of the components will be modelled and placed in this area of the ship. As we move into the living quarters of the ship, then it's very basic, very Drake. Everything we're used to and everything we love from Drake is here. So we have the gun racks, 2 simple bunks, because that's awesome. We like to log out and then log back in and be able to carry on where we left off, so that's very cool. We have the turret seat situation, which on the Cutlass Red, I believe, is something else. I can't remember, but it's a different format for the ship, the Cutlass Red. When we head into the turret itself, then Now the capacitors for this are very impressive, and we have the 2 Panthers, so you definitely want this turret manned. The rotation is respectable. Towards the rear of the ship, you might get some shots. The front, again, it's not brilliant. Gun depression wise, that's not very good. So the ship will be vulnerable from underneath and low rear. So that is something to keep in mind. But you definitely want someone gunning in this turret. Right. This is the part where I had to merge my clips. Shout out to Rival for lending me his Cutlass Blue, even though it says private property. Unfortunately, this is the only way I could compensate for my corrupted clips. So we have the gun rack, as previously discussed, so we're able to take weapons and store them. And then on the way to the front, we have our co-pilot seat. Fairly standard stuff. Fairly standard Drake. So let's hop into this seat. It's a very smooth and cool operation, and look at that visibility. Look at the beauty this game can produce. So this is the pilot seat, and as you can see, it's absolutely glorious. That visibility is superb, and of course we have all the MFDs right in front of us that we love from Drake. So there we go, guys. That was my video on the Drake Cutlass Blue. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you know what buttons to press, and I will have more Star Citizen content en route to your location soon. Also, if you'd like to join my Discord, there will be a link in the description. I've also launched an org which is still in its baby infancy stage, and I will also link that at the bottom as well. But make sure to join our Discord. The community is growing. We've got loads of active players in there, and I'm in there frequently, and it's been very, very good. Shout out to Rival for lending me his Cutlass Blue. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care. Cheers.